Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving into something incredibly personal and deeply cultural for many, beauty standards in the Philippines.
Hmm.
The material you've shared with us shows this is far more than just, surface level appearance.
Oh, definitely.
It seems like it's a thread woven right through identity, family values, and it even touches on social standing.
That's absolutely right. And what's really striking in the sources isn't just the description of the standards themselves, but how they're shown as being deeply embedded in the culture.
Right.
There's this powerful personal reflection shared about observing a Lola, a grandmother, and her meticulous daily beauty ritual.
Yes, I saw that. That image really sets the stage, doesn't it?
It really does.
Seeing this Lola spending hours viewing it as almost sacred is just, it's much more than just a personal habit.
Exactly.
Your material hints that this points to, well, broader societal expectations, maybe even beauty acting as a kind of marker of worth or duty.
It does seem that way, and that really leads us to the core questions for this deep dive.
Right.
What are the forces driving these intense standards? And what's the real cost of trying to meet them?
Okay.
So our mission is to explore their origins, understand their significant impact, and also look at how they're being challenged and maybe redefined today, using your sources as our guide.
Right. So let's start at the beginning then. Where did these beauty ideals even, well, come from? Your material takes us way back, connecting them deeply to the country's history.
Yeah, if we look into the historical layers presented in the sources, you can see centuries of influences.
Yeah.
The Spanish colonial period, over 300 years, that profoundly shaped the early ideals.
3 centuries, wow.
Yeah. So features common in European colonizers, fair skin, lighter eyes, a slimmer nose, those became idealized. And what's fascinating is how directly the sources link this to both beauty and social status within that colonial hierarchy.
Ah, okay. So the ideal features weren't just like aesthetic preferences, they were tied directly to the power structures back then. The Spanish and those of mixed Spanish descent, the mestizos, they were at the top, right? So their features became the aspiration.
Exactly. The term mestiza itself almost became synonymous with beauty in that context. Your material notes that the origins of skin whitening products, things like using papaya soap, can actually be traced back to this era.
Really?
Yeah, as Filipinos sought to emulate the pale complexion associated with the colonizers.
Okay, okay. And then the American occupation adds another layer on top of that, blending Western ideals with existing Filipino traditions.
Absolutely. American influence brought, Hollywood glamour. It reinforced preferences for fair skin and slender builds through figures like, say, Audrey Hepburn.
Mm-hmm.
But your sources also remind us that traditional Filipino standards didn't just vanish. A smooth, clear complexion, which was seen as a sign of health and cleanliness that was rooted in pre-colonial practices, using natural things like coconut oil. That persisted too.
Ah,
So there's this layering effect, you see, that starts to create the complexity.
right, right. Fast forward to today, and globalization just throws even more into the mix, I imagine.
It truly does. Your sources point to the massive rise of Korean pop culture, K-pop, K-dramas,
Yeah.
huge. And they've introduced trends like glass skin and very specific makeup styles.
Mhm.
There's even a report cited in your material from 2024 noting a 30% increase in skincare sales driven specifically by Korean brands.
30%. Wow. Plus, you have platforms like Instagram and TikTok just relentlessly amplifying these curated images of perfection, often blending all of these different ideals together.
And so what we see emerging from your material is this unique and often pretty unattainable benchmark. It's a fusion of Eastern and Western standards.
A fusion.
Yeah, combining demands for fair skin, K-pop aesthetics, and Hollywood's emphasis on slimness. It's a standard pulled from multiple places all at once.
You can almost feel the pressure just thinking about that blend of expectations.
Mhm.
Your material includes a really powerful personal story that sort of brings this pressure to life.
It does. It shares the experience of a close friend who really struggled growing up in Manila because she had a curvier figure and darker skin. Natural features that just didn't fit that dominant ideal of fair, slim, and petite.
Right.
And the teasing, the comments, not just from peers, but even relatives, it clearly had a deep impact.
Being called names like beluga or having relatives actually suggest whitening creams or diets, that level of scrutiny, especially coming from family, that must be incredibly difficult to navigate.
It sounds like it consistently chipped away at her confidence, making her feel, fundamentally unworthy.
Yeah.
And your sources highlight that this friend's experience isn't unique at all. There are posts cited from X from May 2025 showing many similar stories.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Filipino women being shamed for their natural features like marina skin or broader nose, and linking this right back to those persistent societal ideals.
So the pressure isn't just abstract media images, it's deeply internalized and kind of enforced through family and cultural interactions.
Right.
Suddenly, that Lola's ritual we talked about takes on another dimension. You could see it perhaps as reflecting beauty not just as personal preference, but almost as a cultural obligation, maybe even a duty.
And that leads us to consider, what are the real consequences of holding up these often unrealistic, sometimes contradictory standards?
Yeah, what is the cost? Your material spells it out very clearly. It's not just emotional, it impacts physical and mental health too.
Hmm.
The skin whitening industry, for instance,
Hmm.
it's valued at a staggering $200 million in the Philippines. That's according to a 2024 Euromonitor report in your sources.
200 million.
And these products, as you mentioned, can contain harmful ingredients like mercury, leading to serious risks, permanent skin damage, kidney issues.
Yeah, and a health survey from 2025 mentioned in your material found that a concerning 15% of Filipino women using these whitening creams actually experienced adverse effects.
15%. Yet many feel compelled to continue because of that intense societal pressure.
Exactly. And mentally, the toll is heavy too. A University of the Philippines study cited in your sources linked these beauty standards to a 20% rise in reported anxiety and depression among young Filipinos, particularly women.
20% rise.
And the constant feeling of not measuring up, the scrutiny,
Yeah.
it creates this pervasive sense of inadequacy.
Yeah.
Those who don't fit the mold face bullying, exclusion, contributing to long-term self-esteem issues. And even for those who try to conform, it can feel like a trap because the ideal keeps shifting, with new trends, global influences.
It's a moving target, and perhaps unsurprisingly, your sources point out how the beauty industry really capitalizes on this insecurity.
Oh, absolutely.
Ads for things like glutathione injections explicitly reinforce the idea that darker skin is undesirable, pushing people towards potentially risky treatments.
Right. There was a 2025 post on X mentioned that criticized a campaign with the tagline, "Be the fairest of them all."
Ugh.
And the criticism was that it directly perpetuates those colonial ideals.
Yeah, you can see that connection clearly.
It creates this cycle, doesn't it? External pressure leads to internalized insecurity, which then leads to consumption. Filipinos chasing an ideal that's not only unattainable, but often comes at a significant expense to their health and well-being.
So, given this deep-seated history and the really significant cost, how are people beginning to push back against these norms? Your material does offer some glimmers of hope here, highlighting challenges to these standards.
It does. It sort of forces us to ask, what happens if we start to celebrate the features we've maybe been taught to hide or diminish?
Right.
Your sources remind us that the Philippines is incredibly diverse. I mean, home to over 175 ethno-linguistic groups, each with unique natural features, from the beautiful marina skin tones common in the Visayas to the naturally curly hair of the Aida people.
So much diversity.
Exactly. Yet these differences are often erased in that dominant beauty narrative.
But your material highlights a growing movement, right?
Yeah.
Filipino influencers who are actively advocating for inclusivity and challenging these narrow ideals.
Yes, absolutely. You see examples like Real Madrid. She's a popular marina beauty vlogger.
Okay.
Her Marina Magic series on TikTok showcasing makeup looks that actually enhance natural skin tone. It has millions of views and countless comments from viewers expressing gratitude for finally seeing themselves represented and celebrated.
That's fantastic.
And then you have body-positive advocates like Angel de Peralta challenging the slimness ideal, walking runways, inspiring others just by embodying confidence in diverse body types.
These individuals really are trailblazers, showing that beauty isn't just one single rigid definition. Your material even shares that the friend who struggled with body image, she recently posted a photo of herself with a caption that really captured this shift.
That's right. It said something like, "This is me, Marina, curvy and beautiful."
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. That moment of reclaiming confidence, asserting her own definition of beauty, it reflects a broader shift that seems to be happening. By celebrating the vast spectrum of unique natural features that exist in the Philippines, these suffocating standards can maybe gradually be dismantled.
So looking ahead then, how does a society move towards redefining beauty on its own terms? Your sources suggest a few key pathways.
Well, it seems it's about shifting the focus, isn't it?
How so?
Instead of chasing external ideals dictated by history or global trends, the emphasis needs to move towards things like health, happiness, genuine confidence.
Okay.
Beauty viewed more as self-expression and well-being, not strict conformity. And this involves education too, teaching young Filipinos to value their natural traits and to critically examine those colonial ideals from an early age.
Right. Schools and media have a big role there.
A huge role in promoting diverse representations.
And actively amplifying those inclusive voices, supporting brands that champion diversity. That seems key, too.
Definitely. Your material mentions a 2025 report by Kantar Philippines noting a 25% increase in demand for clean beauty products.
Oh, interesting.
Products that prioritize health and natural ingredients over whitening. It's a signal that consumer priorities might already be starting to shift.
Voting with our wallets, as they say.
It's a powerful way to drive change in the industry. And finally, just sharing stories like the personal anecdotes in your sources. That creates space for connection and builds a community that celebrates individuality.
Yeah, your material notes that these shared online stories, where people open up about their struggles and triumphs with beauty standards, they create a more accepting, more validating environment for everyone.
It really underscores the power of vulnerability, I think, in driving cultural change.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, your source material has really unveiled Filipino beauty standards as this, wow, complex tapestry.
Intricately woven.
Yeah, from centuries of colonial history, layered with global influences and amplified by modern media.
And these standards have undeniably had a profound impact on how Filipinos see themselves, often at a significant cost to their self-esteem, their sense of authenticity.
That cost is significant, affecting not just mental health, like we discussed, for those struggling to fit often unattainable ideals,
Right.
but also real physical health risks associated with some of the products used to conform.
But importantly, your sources also highlight powerful individuals and growing movements who are challenging these rigid norms.
Yes.
Celebrating the Philippines' incredible inherent diversity from its many ethno-linguistic groups to beautiful, unique natural features like merino skin or curly hair.
It seems clear from your material that challenging these external standards and embracing diverse natural beauty is really key to dismantling that suffocating pressure.
Yeah, and redefining beauty as a celebration of individuality and well-being.
Exactly.
And if we take a step back, connect this to the bigger picture, the source material kind of leaves us with this powerful thought to consider, doesn't it? If beauty standards have historically been tied so closely to power, to status, and these external, often colonial ideals, what could it truly look like for a vibrant, diverse society like the Philippines to define beauty entirely on its own terms? Celebrating health, happiness, confidence in its own rich, varied features above all else. What would that world look like?